They thought she was just another quiet scholarship girl. In 7 minutes, they'd learn the hard way what survival really looks like. The heavy click of the classroom door locking behind her sent a chill racing down Cassandra Morgan's spine. Her breath caught as 3 senior boys stepped forward, sealing off the only exit, their smirks laced with the same kind of cruelty that had already driven 2 transfer students out of Westfield Academy this year. Hunter Blackwood cracked his knuckles as he advanced, smug and careless, completely unaware that the girl backing into the corner wasn't just scared. Cassandra had spent 4 brutal years in juvenile detention centers, where kindness was weakness, and survival meant becoming something far more dangerous than any prep school bully could imagine. What unfolded over the next 7 minutes would become the most watched security footage in the school's history, and by the time the screaming stopped, Hunter would be on his knees, sobbing, begging for the kind of mercy he had never shown anyone else. Cassandra pressed her palm against the fogged window of her mother's beat-up Honda Civic, watching as Westfield Academy rose into view like a mansion out of a movie. Red brick buildings crowned with white columns, flawless lawns, and students stepping out of sleek luxury cars in polished uniforms. Her stomach tightened. This was supposed to be her fresh start, her chance to bury the past and become invisible. No one here knew about the fights, the foster homes, or the court-mandated anger management classes. To them, she was just another scholarship kid trying to blend in. Her mother reached over and gave her hand a squeeze. "You've got this, baby. Remember what Dr. Chen said. New environment, new you. Just breathe through the anxiety. And focus on your studies." Cassie nodded, adjusting the stiff collar of her second-hand blazer. The school had been her counselor's idea, part of a special program for at-risk youth with exceptional academic potential. Her test scores had always been her armor, her way out, even when everything else was falling apart. Books had been her escape, her one constant. Now maybe they'd finally lead her to a real future, if she could just stay calm. The parking lot buzzed with activity. Students moved in tight, polished packs, like wolves staking out territory. Cassie had seen the same behavior in every institution she'd survived. The only difference here was the designer bags and perfect teeth. "Keep your head down," she reminded herself. "No eye contact, no waves, no mistakes." She kissed her mother goodbye and stepped out into the crisp September morning. The main building loomed ahead, all tradition and wealth. Students breezed past her, chatting about trips to the Hamptons and summers in Europe. Cassie clutched her worn backpack tighter, her every step feeling like trespassing. Inside, the hallways were even more intimidating. Gleaming marble floors reflected chandelier light. Towering trophy cases lined the walls, stuffed with decades of polished glory. Oil paintings of distinguished alumni stared down with cold, assessing eyes. She found her locker and quietly started organizing her supplies, trying to disappear into the noise and motion of first-day chaos. Then came the laugh, low, confident, and dripping with cruelty. She knew that sound. It always came right before someone got hurt. "Check out the charity case," a voice sneered behind her. Cassie didn't turn around. She focused on her books, breathing the way Dr. Chen had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. "Don't engage, don't react. I'm talking to you," the voice snapped. A hand slammed her locker shut, nearly crushing her fingers. She looked up. 3 boys stood in a semicircle. The one in front was clearly the leader. Tall, athletic, his dark hair was perfectly styled. His uniform custom-tailored. A Rolex gleamed on his wrist. "Hunter Blackwood," he said like it should impress her. "My family basically built this. School," Cassie kept her voice calm. "I'm just trying to get to class." He blocked her path with a smirk. "That's not how it works here. See, we've got traditions at Westfield, a hierarchy, and scholarship kids." He leaned in, his cologne sharp and overpowering. "They need to understand their place. His Friends chuckled. Marcus Chen, whose father owned half the city's commercial real estate. Tyler Fitzgerald, from a family with 5 generations of Westfield alumni. Boys raised to believe the world was theirs. I don't want any trouble, Cassie said, fingers curling into fists inside her blazer. Trouble? Hunter grinned wider. Who said anything about trouble? We're just establishing boundaries. He flicked her collar, sneering at a faint stain from breakfast. Maybe invest in real clothes. This is Westfield, not whatever public school, trash heap you crawled out of. Rage flared, hot and immediate. In her mind, she was already twisting his arm, slamming his smug face into the lockers. She'd done worse to tougher boys, but Dr. Chen's voice echoed in her mind. Your anger is valid, Cassandra, but your future is more important. Choose your battles. She forced her eyes downward. Can I go to class now? Hunter stepped aside, with a mocking bow. By all means, run along, Mouse. As she hurried off, she heard Marcus snort. Dude, did you see her hands? She was shaking. This is gonna be fun, Hunter said. Give it a week, she'll crack, or she'll transfer, like the last 2. Cassie's first class was AP Literature, her comfort zone. She slid into a seat in the back, trying to vanish into the lesson. Miss Peterson, a warm-eyed middle-aged woman, offered a gentle smile. Class, we have a new student, Cassandra Morgan, from the scholarship program. Let's make her feel welcome. A few heads turned. Most didn't care. Cassie buried herself in her notebook as the teacher launched into a lecture on Hamlet. She clung to the text, structure, meaning, language, her safe space. She didn't notice the folded paper until it landed on her desk. Scholarship rats don't belong here. Watch your back. Cassie crumpled the note and shoved it in her pocket. She wouldn't let them see her react, but her hand was trembling, and her vision blurred as angry tears welled up. The rest of the morning was more of the same. Hunter and his crew followed her from class to class, bumping her books, making sly remarks, and loudly questioning the school's lowering standards. The other students stayed silent, eyes averted, unwilling to be next. By lunch, Cassie was exhausted. The cafeteria was a battlefield of social cliques and silent borders. She bought a sandwich with her meal voucher, another mark of her status, and scanned for a place to sit. Over here, a voice called. Cassie turned. A girl with bright purple streaks in her blonde hair waved from a corner table. She sat with 2 others, a boy reading a comic book and a girl with paint stains on her blazer. I'm Lily, the girl said brightly as Cassie sat. This is Jerome and Aria. We're the official Westfield Misfits Club. I didn't know. That was a thing, Cassie replied cautiously. It's not, Jerome muttered, glancing up. But when Hunter Blackwood decides you're an outsider, you either find your people or get eaten alive. Aria nodded, brushing thick, dark hair behind her ear. He made my life hell freshman year, because I got the art scholarship instead of his girlfriend's sister. The best thing you can do is stay under the radar, Lily said. Too late, Cassie murmured. He introduced himself this morning. The 3 exchanged grim looks. Then you're in for it, Lily said. Hunter doesn't stop. Last year he started in on this kid Danny. At first it was jokes and shoves. Then Danny ended up in the hospital with a mysterious concussion. His family pulled him out of school. And the administration? Cassie asked, though she already knew. The Blackwoods funded the new science wing, Jerome said flatly, and the gym, and probably half the board. Hunter was untouchable. The rage swelled in Cassie's chest again. Different school, same story. Power protecting power, and kids like her thrown to the wolves. But she wasn't helpless. She'd survived worse. She just had to last 2 years. Keep her head down. Get out. Afternoon meant PE. Cassie dreaded the locker room, all designer bags, perfect ponytails, and judgmental stares. She changed quickly in a corner stall, painfully aware of how plain she looked beside them. On the field, the girls were practicing soccer. Hunter's lacrosse team played nearby. He spotted her immediately, grinned, and made a throat-slitting gesture. "Morgan," the PE teacher barked. "You're on B team. Let's see what you've got." Soccer had been one of the few things allowed in her old group homes. She was good at it. Fast, focused. She threw herself into the game, grateful for the outlet. For 40 minutes, she wasn't the scholarship girl. She was just a player, running, kicking, breathing, until something slammed into the back of her knee. She dropped hard, hands scraping against the turf. Pain flared in her leg as a lacrosse ball rolled past. Hunter jogged by casually, stick in hand. "Oops," he said, not even pretending to mean it. "Watch where you're going." "Scholarship." Coach Williams blew her whistle without looking up. "Blackwood, keep your gear on your own field." And that was it. No punishment. No apology. No surprise. Cassie lay sprawled across the gym floor, gravel embedded in her palms, blood trickling from fresh scrapes. She pushed herself up, ignoring the sting, and forced herself to keep playing. But she felt Hunter's eyes on her the entire period, watching, calculating, waiting. After PE, she stood at the sink in the girls' bathroom, rinsing the grit from her wounds when the door creaked open behind her. Expecting classmates, she didn't look up until she heard heavy footsteps. She turned, and her stomach dropped. Hunter stepped inside like he owned the place, flanked by Marcus and Tyler. "This is the girls' bathroom," Cassie said, her voice steadier than her heartbeat. Hunter leaned against the door, sealing off the exit. "I go wherever I want in this school. Thought we established that this morning." Cassie's mind started mapping exits. The window, too small, too high. The door, blocked. 3 against 1, all of them bigger. But she'd survived worse. The key was not to show fear. "What do you want?" she asked, shutting off the faucet, turning to face them. "I want you to understand something," Hunter said, tone casual, but his eyes ice cold. "This school has a standard, one we've worked hard to maintain. Then people like you show up, dragging down our reputation, stealing resources from kids who actually belong here." "I earned my place," Cassie said, voice low but unwavering. "My test scores. I don't care if you're the next." "Einstein," Hunter cut in, "you don't belong at Westfield. And if you're smart, and apparently you are, you'll figure that out before things get messy." He stepped closer. Cassie instinctively backed up, bumping into the sink. "See? Scholarship kids?" he sneered. "They never last. Something always happens. Cheating, fighting, a breakdown. Sound familiar?" Tyler let out a sharp laugh that bounced off the tile walls. "Remember that girl last year?" Marcus said. "Maria thought she was tough until she wasn't." Cassie gripped the sink, white-knuckled. Every foster kid's survival instinct screamed. They were blocking the exit, crowding her space, testing her. Her whole body was coiled to strike. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, proud that her voice didn't tremble. Hunter smiled. "A dead thing. We'll see." He turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "Oh, and Cassandra, this was a friendly warning. Next time won't be so pleasant." When their laughter finally faded, Cassie locked herself in a stall and let herself shake, not from fear. She'd faced worse than Hunter Blackwood. No, she shook from the effort it took, not to fight back, from holding the monster inside her in check. She almost called Dr. Chen. Almost. But what would she even say? That rich boys were cornering her? That she wanted to hurt them? That wouldn't help. She just had to be stronger. The rest of the week followed a grim pattern. Harassment ratcheting up like clockwork. Her homework vanished from her locker. Her lunch tray was accidentally knocked to the floor. Someone spray-painted charity case on her locker in dripping red letters. Hunter and his crew were always nearby, smirking, watching, circling like wolves. Cassie said nothing. She held her silence like a shield, clinging to her new friends and diving into her studies. Lily, Jerome, and Arya did what they could. Warning her about ambushes, walking her between classes, but they had their own battles. Hunter was careful, always just out of reach of adult eyes. By Thursday, Cassie was running on fumes. She hadn't slept properly in days, flinching at every sound, waiting for the next round of hell. She stayed late in the library, not just to study, but to avoid her mother's worried eyes. That's when she made the mistake. The library closed at 6. Cassie packed her bag reluctantly and stepped into the mostly empty halls. A few students from after-school clubs lingered, but it was mostly deserted. She headed toward her locker to swap out books. Half the lights had already been turned off, for the night, leaving the corridor in uneasy shadows. She was spinning the dial on her locker when the voice came, low and mocking. "Working late? Scholarship?" Cassie turned. Hunter stood in the hallway, Marcus and Tyler beside him. And this time, they'd brought back up 2 more guys from the lacrosse team. All of them bigger, all of them smirking. "This building's closed to students," Cassie said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Not to us," Hunter replied, pulling out a key ring. "My dad's on the board, remember? I've got keys to every room in this place." He jingled them. "And right now, we need to have a little private conversation." Cassie bolted. Tyler and Marcus caught her by the arms. She could have broken free. Her body knew how. But fighting meant expulsion. It meant proving every stereotype right. So she held back. They dragged her into a dark classroom. Hunter unlocked it with a casual flick, like he'd done it 100 times. The emergency exit light glowed red, casting everything in shadow. "I've been patient," Hunter said as they shoved her inside. "I gave you chances to walk away, but you're too stupid or too stubborn to get the hint." The door clicked shut. 5 boys, 1 exit. Cassie's heart hammered. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was group home bad. Juvenile detention, bad. The kind of moment where holding back got you hurt. "Just let me go," she said, edging toward the window. "This isn't worth it. I'm nobody." "Exactly," Hunter said. "You're nobody, but you're taking up space meant for somebody. Draining resources meant for us." He nodded. The boys spread out, surrounding her. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to transfer out. Tonight. Tell your mom you couldn't. Cut it. Tell her whatever you want. Just don't come back." "And if I don't?" Cassie asked, though she already knew. Hunter's smile was pure malice. "Then it gets unpleasant. Accidents happen. Maybe you fall down some stairs. Maybe you get caught with pills in your locker. Or maybe—" He stepped closer. The threat in his eyes was unmistakable. That's when it happened. A click in Cassie's mind. A switch flipping. The same switch that flipped the night 3 older boys cornered her in the group home. The night that earned her her first stay. In juvie. The calm before the explosion. "I tried," she whispered more to herself than them. "I really tried to be different," Hunter laughed. "Trying doesn't mean shit here. Only winning matters." Cassie nodded slowly. Rolled her shoulders. "You're right," she said. "Only winning matters." She dropped her backpack, shifted, her stance. None of them noticed. Too cocky, too sure of their size and numbers. "So?" Hunter taunted. "You gonna leave? Or do we have to—" He didn't finish. Cassie moved, her elbow slammed into Tyler's ribs, knocking the air from his lungs. She used his body like a springboard, launching herself at Marcus with a flying knee that sent him crashing into a desk. Panic exploded in the room. Hunter shouted, "Get her!" But his voice cracked. Cassie grabbed a desk and swung it like a sledgehammer. It connected with a lacrosse player's ribs. He crumpled with a scream loud enough to summon the dead. Another rushed her. She dropped low, swept his legs. He slammed into the floor. Cassie pounced, locking in a chokehold learned from a girl who'd once killed her stepfather. "Stop!" Marcus gasped. Cassie released her grip, turned, and faced the rest. Tyler writhed on the floor. One crawled for the door. Only Hunter and Marcus remained standing. Barely. "You wanted the real me?" Cassie said, voice flat. "The scholarship kid from the wrong side of the tracks?" She stepped toward Marcus. He charged. "Wrong move." Cassie caught his arm. "Bivote!" and flipped him clean over her hip. He slammed into a desk row, scattering them like bowling pins. Hunter backed toward the door, hands raised. "Wait! Just wait a sec." "No more waiting," Cassie said, advancing. "You had your chance." She fainted left. When Hunter dodged right, she was already there. Her fist crushed his nose. The crunch echoed in the room. Blood sprayed across his shirt as he screamed and stumbled backward. "My nose!" he shrieked. "You broke my—" "That's just the beginning," Cassie said. But before she could go further, the door burst open. Security stormed in, followed by the night janitor who had clearly heard the chaos. They took in the destruction. Boys moaning, desks overturned, one girl in the center with bloodied knuckles. "Nobody move!" barked the head of security. 20 minutes later, Cassie sat cuffed in Principal Morrison's office. Police had been called. Parents were en route. She could still hear Hunter sobbing in the nurse's office. She should have been scared. Her scholarship was gone. Charges were likely. Her mother would be heartbroken. But Cassie felt only one thing: relief. The mask was gone. No more pretending. Principal Morrison entered with 2 police officers and a man in a tailored suit with cold eyes and a cruel mouth, Hunter's father. "Miss Morgan," the principal began, his voice thick with tension. "Disappointment?" the principal asked, his voice tight. "Would you care to explain what happened?" Cassie looked him dead in the eye. 5 boys locked me in a classroom and threatened to hurt me if I didn't leave the school. I defended myself." "That's a lie," Mr. Blackwood exploded, surging forward. "My son says you attacked them, unprovoked, that you've been unstable all week, making threats." "Check the security cameras," Cassie said, cutting him off. "They dragged me into that room." The principal shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Unfortunately, that hallway's cameras were malfunctioning this evening." Cassie almost laughed. Of course they were. Hunter had probably disabled them, thinking it would cover his tracks. He never imagined they might actually protect her. "She's clearly disturbed," Mr. Blackwood snapped. "Look at her record. Multiple foster homes, juvenile detention. This is exactly why this scholarship program is a mistake. You bring in these damaged kids? I have a video." All heads turned toward the doorway. Lily stood there, her purple-streaked hair catching the light, flanked by Jerome and Aria. She held her phone up. "I was worried when Cassie didn't show up." "At the coffee shop," Lily said. "So we came back to look for her. I started recording when I saw them dragging her down the hall." She pressed play. Hunter's voice blasted from the phone speaker. "Maybe we just hurt you until you beg us to let you leave." The principal went ghostly white. Mr. Blackwood opened and closed his mouth, no words coming out. On the screen, the footage was clear. 5 boys surrounding one girl. Threatening, closing in, then violence. "Turn it off," Mr. Blackwood said, barely audible. But Lily let it play. It showed Cassie backing away, trying to reason with them, before finally unleashing hell, efficient, brutal, unrelenting. When it ended, the room was dead silent, except for the muffled sound of Hunter whining about his broken nose. "I want that video deleted," Mr. Blackwood said at last, seething, "and this girl expelled. If not, I'll pull every dollar my family—" "Mr. Blackwood," one of the police officers cut in. "That video shows your son and his friends committing felony assault, unlawful detention, and issuing terroristic threats. The only reason they're not in cuffs right now is because they're minors, and because they're receiving medical care. He turned to Cassie. You'll need to give a statement downtown, but based on what I saw, you won't be facing charges. Clear case of self-defense. Principal Morrison cleared his throat. Miss Morgan, while I understand you were defending yourself, the level of violence was exactly what I needed to survive, Cassie said flatly. Her voice had hardened. I've been in 13 foster homes, 2 group facilities, and a year in juvie, after 3 18-year-olds thought a skinny 14-year-old would be an easy target. I learned fast that when you're outnumbered, you don't hold back. She leaned forward as far as the handcuffs allowed. I tried to do it your way. Keep my head down. Be the perfect scholarship kid. But your golden boy and his friends wouldn't let me. So yeah, I hurt them. Because the alternative was letting them hurt me. And I made myself a promise a long time ago. I will never be anybody's victim again. Silence. Mr. Blackwood's face had turned from red to a dangerous purple. The principal looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. And Cassie's friends? Still recording everything on their phones. That's when Cassie's mother walked in. Elena Morgan, still in her nurse's scrubs, her face lined with exhaustion. She took, in the handcuffs, the police, the shouting parent. Cassie saw her shoulders sag. What did she do? Elena asked, her voice tight. Mom, Cassie began. Just tell me what she did, Elena said, cutting her off. Principal Morrison explained. Mr. Blackwood kept interrupting. Lily played the video again. Elena listened without a word, her face unreadable. When it was done, she crossed the room and knelt beside her daughter. You promised me, she whispered. I did try, Cassie whispered back, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. I tried so hard, Mom, but they wouldn't stop. They were going to hurt me. Elena studied her for a long moment, then stood. Uncuff my daughter, she said, her voice iron. Ma'am, the principal began. Uncuff my daughter, Elena said again, her tone sharp as steel. She was ambushed by 5 boys in a locked room. She defended herself. If you're looking for someone to punish, start with the boy who orchestrated the attack. This is absurd, Mr. Blackwood sputtered. Your daughter is a menace. My daughter, Elena snapped, turning on him, is a survivor? She's lived through more in 17 years than your son will in a lifetime, and she still earned her place here, on merit. Can your son say the same? She pulled out her phone. I've been recording this entire conversation, including your attempt to bribe the principal and destroy evidence. I think the school board will be very interested in what their top donor had to say tonight. Mr. Blackwood went pale. You can't. I can, and I will, unless... She turned to the principal. Unless we do this right. My daughter stays. No mark on her record. Your son and his friends face appropriate punishment. And Mr. Blackwood here donates generously to the scholarship program, so no other student has to go through what my daughter did. This is extortion, Mr. Blackwood bellowed. No, Elena said coolly. This is justice, something your son clearly never learned. The next hour blurred into a storm of paperwork, negotiations, and police statements. By midnight, Hunter and his crew were suspended pending expulsion. Mr. Blackwood, faced with criminal charges and PR disaster, agreed to Elena's terms. Cassie was released with no charges. Outside, Lily, Jerome, and Aria waited in the parking lot. That was incredible, Jerome said, wide-eyed. Terrifying, but incredible. You're like a superhero, Aria added. Mild-mannered by day, total badass when cornered. Cassie gave a shaky smile. I'm not proud of it. I couldn't let them win. Lily pulled her into a tight hug. You didn't. And we've got your back. All of us. They parted ways, and Cassie sat in the car next to her mother, neither speaking at first. I'm not mad at you, Elena finally said softly. I'm mad at the boys, at this system that protects bullies with rich parents. I wanted it to be different here. I did too, Cassie whispered. I just wanted to be normal. Elena pulled her close. You're not normal, baby. You're extraordinary. You survived what would break most people. And tonight you stood up for yourself when no one else would. That's not weakness. That's strength. They drove home in silence. But as they pulled into the apartment complex, Cassie's phone lit up, dozens of notifications. The video had already spread through the school's social media. Students she didn't even know were sending messages. Thank God someone finally stood up to Hunter. You're my hero. He made my life hell for 3 years. That was the most beautiful karma I've ever seen. By morning, Cassie had become something of a legend. The scholarship kid who refused to back down. The quiet girl who turned out to be a fighter. The one who finally brought down Hunter Blackwood. When she returned Monday, the atmosphere was transformed. Students nodded respectfully. Some even clapped. Teachers looked at her with wary admiration. But the biggest shift? The scholarship kids and the bullied students. They walked taller now, spoke louder, took up space. The power balance had changed, and everyone felt it. Cassie sat at her usual table with Lily, Jerome, and Aria. Except now it was crowded. A dozen more students had joined them, kids who'd spent years being pushed around by Hunter's crew. Is it true you trained in MMA? A freshman asked, eyes wide. Not exactly, Cassie said, squirming under the attention. I just learned to protect myself. Can you teach us? Another kid asked. Not to fight, just to feel safer. Cassie looked around at all the hopeful faces. Kids who'd been where she'd been, who deserved better. Yeah, she said, quietly. I can do that. Later that day, Principal Morrison called her in, this time not to reprimand her. The Blackwoods have withdrawn Hunter, he said, rubbing his temples. The others are suspended with mandatory counseling, and Mr. Blackwood has donated a sizable amount to our scholarship and anti-bullying fund. He studied her. You've caused quite the stir, Miss Morgan. I didn't mean to, she said honestly. I just wanted to be left alone. Sometimes, the principal said, the most powerful changes come from people who just want to be left alone. He slid a paper across the desk. This is a proposal for a student safety committee. I'd like you to join. Help us fix what's broken. Cassie stared at the form. You want me on a committee? After all this? Because of all this, he said. You've shown us what's not working. Help us build something better. Over the next few weeks, Westfield Academy began to change. Cassie's self-defense club grew from 12 students to over 50. She taught them how to move, how to stand tall, how to believe in their own power. New policies rolled out. Anonymous reporting. Better cameras. Respect assemblies. Slowly the culture shifted. Fear gave way to solidarity. Cassie never asked to be a symbol, but every time a kid said, "You made me feel safe," she started to understand. Maybe she hadn't just survived all that pain for herself. Maybe she'd survived it to help others survive theirs. One evening, as she packed up her gear, Miss Peterson from English stopped by. I wanted to thank you, the teacher said. I just defended myself, Cassie replied, shrinking under praise. No, Miss Peterson said. You changed this school. You did what none of us could. You stood up to power and won. She smiled at the door. You're going to do great things, Cassandra Morgan. This is just the beginning. As Cassie walked home beneath the setting sun, her phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Shen, her old therapist. Heard you've been making waves. Remember, controlled strength is, Cassie smiled, finishing the sentence in her head. The kind that lasts. Stillness wasn't weakness. Strength didn't need to shout. Cassie smiled, tucking her phone away. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from her past or hiding pieces of herself to fit into someone else's world. She was using all of it, everything she'd learned, everything she'd endured, to change things for the better. As she approached her apartment building, she spotted her mother's car in the lot and quickened her pace. Elena had been working double shifts for months, quietly preparing for legal bills that, thankfully, never came. Now, for once, they could breathe. How was school? Her mother asked the moment Cassie stepped inside. Same question she'd asked since kindergarten. Good, Cassie said, and this time she meant it. Really good. They curled up on the couch with Chinese takeout, a rare luxury, and Elena lit up with her own news. The hospital had promoted her to shift supervisor, in part because of how she'd handled everything with Cassie's school. Turns out standing up to bullies runs in the family, Elena said with a wink. Cassie laughed, her heart full. As they ate and traded stories from their day, a different kind of quiet settled over her. Not the tired quiet that came after surviving another battle, but true peace. The kind you only feel when you've earned your place in the world, when you know who you are and why you're here. Her phone buzzed again. Group chat. Lily had named it Defenders United. Movie night Friday? Can we practice that wrist escape again? Did y'all see the new safety protocols? Cassie grinned as she typed back, fingers flying. These weren't just classmates anymore, they were friends. Real ones, people who had stood by her when it counted. Later that night, while working on her Hamlet essay, Cassie paused at the prince's eternal question. To be or not to be? She stared at it, thoughtful. For most of her life, she'd chosen not to be seen, not to be vulnerable, not to be herself. But life didn't always let you choose invisibility. Sometimes you had to be, whether you were ready or not. She wrote that Hamlet's indecision came from privilege. He had the luxury of pondering existence. But for people like her, people who'd faced real danger and real consequences, action wasn't optional. It was survival. She ended the essay with a different question. Maybe the real question isn't to be or not to be. It's who to be when the world tells you you're nothing. And the answer, I've learned, is to be yourself. Unapologetically, and with the courage to defend that choice. Miss Peterson would later call it one of the most powerful student essays she'd ever read. But Cassie hadn't written it for the grade. She'd written it because, for the first time, she finally understood her own story. The semester flew by in a blur of committee meetings, classes, and self-defense training. Cassie's grades remained stellar. Funny how much easier it was to focus when you weren't constantly watching your back. She even began tutoring other scholarship students, guiding them through both coursework and the social politics of Westfield. When winter formal came around, something wild happened. Cassie considered going. In her old life, school dances were traps, just another chance to be humiliated. But now, come on, Lily said, flopping a bunch of dress options across her bed. We'll all go together. It'll be fun. You deserve a normal high school experience, Cassie laughed. I don't think I'll ever be normal. Good, Arya said from the floor, painting her nails in swirling galaxy patterns. Normal is overrated. Be extraordinary instead. So she went. Cassie showed up in a simple black dress her mother had altered from a thrift store find. She danced, laughed at Jerome's horrendous moves, and, for a few hours, felt like any other teen, girl, lost in music and twinkling lights. The magic cracked only slightly when a sophomore tugged on her arm nervously. Cassie? Sorry to bug you, but there's this guy who won't stop bothering my friend. Without a word, Cassie followed her across the gym. A senior was looming over a visibly uncomfortable freshman. One look from Cassie was all it took. He backed off immediately. Thanks, the girl whispered. Everyone says you're like our guardian angel. I'm not an angel, Cassie said softly. Just someone who remembers what it's like to need help. She turned to them both. Stick together, And if he comes near her again, tell me or a teacher. Immediately." As she walked back, Lily was smirking. "You really can't help it, can you?" Cassie shrugged. "Someone has to." Jerome straightened his crooked bow tie. "Isn't it cool that it's you?" The rest of the year passed in a chain of small victories. The Self-Defense Club became an official school org with funding and a faculty sponsor. The safety committee's programs dropped bullying incidents by 60%. 3 new scholarship students joined student government, their voices finally heard. One day, a letter arrived, an apology from Hunter. Court-mandated, obviously. Cassie didn't finish reading it. Some things come too late to mean anything. As junior year neared its end, Cassie found herself in Principal Morrison's office again. But this time, it wasn't disciplinary. "I got a call from Columbia University," he said, trying and failing to contain his grin. "They've been following your story, your grades, your leadership. They're offering you early admission. Full scholarship." Cassie blinked. "Columbia? But I'm just a junior." "An exceptional junior," Morrison said. "They have a program for students who've overcome extraordinary challenges. You're exactly who they're looking for." He slid a folder across the desk. "Think about it. Talk to your mom." "But Cassie, you've earned this." That night, she and Elena sat at the kitchen table, staring at the Ivy League materials like they might vanish if they blinked. "My baby got into the Ivy League," Elena whispered. "I haven't said yes yet," Cassie reminded her. "Why wouldn't you?" Elena asked. "This is everything we've worked for." Cassie ran her fingers over the university logo. "What about the safety committee? The club? The kids who count on me?" "You've taught them how to stand," Elena said, taking her daughter's hands. "They'll be okay. And think of the kids you haven't met yet. Think of what you could do with a degree from Columbia." Cassie nodded slowly. She had started thinking beyond Westfield, thinking about bigger change, systemic solutions. Maybe this was the next step. "And hey," Elena added, smiling, "New York's only a train ride away. You'll visit." In the end, the choice wasn't that hard. Cassie had spent so long surviving, she'd almost forgotten how to dream. Columbia represented the dream she never dared have. A future where her mind mattered, where her past wasn't a liability, but her fuel. A future where she could change more than one school, maybe change everything. At the next self-defense meeting, she made her announcement. The room went quiet. Then came the emotions: cheers, hugs, tears, laughter. "Who's going to protect us now?" a nervous sophomore asked. Cassie stepped forward. "You are. That's what I've been training you for. Not to rely on one person, but to build a community that has each other's backs." She paused. "I'll train senior leaders before I go. We'll build a system. I'll come back, I promise." Lily raised her hand. "I nominate myself president of the Cassie Morgan Fan Club." "Seconded," Jerome yelled. Laughter echoed through the room. On her last day at Westfield, the school held a full assembly in her honor. Cassie tried to object. Spotlights were never her thing, but Morrison wouldn't budge. "You changed this place," he said. "Let us thank you." So she sat on stage, squirming as speaker after speaker shared stories. Students talked about feeling safe for the first time. Teachers praised the shift in culture. Parents spoke of daughters and sons who'd found confidence they never had before. When it was finally her turn, Cassie stepped up to the mic, heart pounding. "I'm not great at speeches," she said, drawing laughter. "But I need you to hear this. What happened here? The changes. That wasn't because I'm special. It's because we decided that fear wouldn't run our lives anymore. That everyone deserves to be safe. That standing up together is stronger than standing alone." She looked out at all the faces, the victims, the bystanders, the allies. She thought of Hunter and his gang, gone now, scattered or facing consequences. She thought of who she used to be. I know some of you are scared about what comes next. But you don't need me. You've got each other. You've got strength. Use it. Keep building. Make it even better." Her voice grew fierce. And to anyone out there who's being bullied, who feels invisible or small, you're not. Find your people. Use your voice. Fight back if you have to. You deserve to take up space in this world. You are stronger than you know. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. She tried to escape but was pulled into hugs, photos, promises to stay in touch. By the time she made it to her mother's car, she was wrung out, but glowing. "Ready for your next adventure?" Elena asked. Cassie looked back at Westfield 1. Last time. The red bricks, the white columns, the manicured lawns, it all looked the same. But everything had changed. She had changed. "Yeah," Cassie said, sliding into her seat. "I'm ready." As they drove away, her phone buzzed. Columbia orientation info, housing forms, scholarship paperwork. The future was speeding toward her, bright and wide and waiting. But she'd never forget Westfield. Never forget that sometimes the worst parts of your life become the most powerful. That when you fight for your place, you don't just change your life, you change the world. The scholarship girl who once wished to disappear had become unforgettable. The survivor who hid her scars had made them her armor. And this was just the beginning.